Hey guys, and welcome back to another great episode of Pardon Our Honesty. I'm Tiffany,
I'm Megan.
and today's topic of things that we don't talk about, because some things we just really, really don't want to talk about, Megan makes us talk about. You hear that? Megan is making us talk about this subject. But this is absolutely why we started this podcast, was to kind of put it out there in the atmosphere and spark conversation about things that we vehemently, I hope y'all know what that word means,
I really didn't know what that word meant.
it's like
I think adamantly,
aggressively,
like
yes,
okay.
adamantly
Okay.
avoid talking about dealing with your trauma or dealing with your shit. Like,
I wouldn't downplay it. I think I would say trauma because we all have shit, but not everybody has. Well, I guess some people. I don't think everybody has trauma to the level of what we're talking about trauma,
oh, God.
but everybody has shit. So I think we gear more towards trauma, like more than just shit, because I think we all have shit. Everybody's got
Well,
family, kids, mess.
depending. Okay, so yeah.
But like, okay, for example, I've never been sexually abused as a child. I wouldn't say I was abused as a
You
child.
might have been emotionally abused.
I don't think I was emotionally abused. I think I witnessed some things as a child, that
Yeah.
I recall that maybe, but in my brain, I don't believe that I have significant traumas. I could be wrong or I've blocked it
Yeah.
out, but in my brain, I had a
Mhm.
pretty normal upbringing.
Yeah.
We were disciplined. I
Yeah.
don't think we were abused. And I don't think I'm brainwashed. I literally don't think I was abused.
Yes.
We had an open household. We talked. I was
Mhm.
never sexually abused. I don't believe I was emotionally abused. My dad wasn't home a lot, but that's not trauma to me. That's just, I think that's affected me in
Yeah.
different ways. So like when you say trauma, you have trauma. And I feel like that's different.
Yeah. My trauma is pretty bad. My brain is very smart because there are a lot of details I just simply don't recall, just because maybe it was its way of protecting me. Been in therapy for a long, long time, always trying to figure out what new strategies, methods, treatment will help me finally get past some of the trauma. I also feel like joining the military and all the things we witnessed and being a part of the military added on to the trauma that I already had.
Do you want to share to any level what kind of trauma you had as a child?
Oh, my childhood trauma was sexual and physical and emotional abuse, all wrapped up in one. Didn't I felt abandoned very early in my life. I remember standing on the porch one day. I think I was, God, I don't even remember, 5, 6, maybe 7, and I was screaming for my mother, and she didn't show up for hours. And I, at that moment, learned you're on your own. Nobody's coming to save you. You better figure it out yourself. And I think that's the way I've lived my whole life, is you can't trust people, because she was the one person I should have been able to trust and she didn't show up. And you got to figure it out for yourself. Nobody else in your corner. And if you don't figure it out, it's going to be bad. So that's the way I've lived my life. And I know, like with you, I'm super close, super close. Probably closest person that I have in my life besides Ed. But I do know my coping skill. If you do something that I feel breaks the trust or makes me feel abandoned, then I would slowly just start like distancing myself to protect myself from that hurt of, dang, I trusted her and now she's abandoned me. And like, I just went against all of the things that I learned to protect myself. And my inner voice would say, see, I told you, you don't trust people. They're always bad. They're always going to let you down. And we've been through this before. And why haven't you learned? And
So
so,
for you,
yeah.
normal disappointments in relationships are big deals
Yes.
because you have a hard time working through those because of starting
Mhm.
from your childhood, where for some of us get mad, we say, we argue, we're over it, we move on.
Yeah.
You take it a different depth. And then I would also ask, like, so with the military, obviously we're in a military town
Mhm.
and, my ex-husband's military, a lot of our people are military. Do you think the trauma from deployments and combat and military, all that stuff, then, and I'm assuming, like everybody else, most people didn't talk about it in the military, didn't get help, whatever. So do you think that double
Yeah,
compounds that?
it does. It reinforces those coping skills that are typically not healthy. It reinforces them. over and over and over again, or it re traumatizes you over and over again every time you have that similar disappointment or that similar issue that is very closely related to whatever your trauma was. You know, the screaming and yelling and basic training, it bothered me, but I didn't show that it bothered me because I was used to that at home. The leaving and meeting friends and getting to know people and then okay, you got to say bye was really easy for me because I do feel like I can disassociate or like leave people easily because that's typically what I did as a teenager. If this wasn't working out, I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel that I can trust these people, then I would just cut it off and move on to the next thing.
With people with a lot of trauma, like, our kids have gone through stuff and other people we know, everybody has like, not everybody, but a lot of people have a bad trauma, parent abuse or abandonment, where they say you have mommy or daddy issues and things like that. How do you're 50, you turned 50 this year, and you're still dealing with it. So do you think, one, you waited way late in life to start working on it? Do you think it's a lifelong process? Do you ever think you heal from it? Like, you've seen our kids since they were about 10 and, they're working through stuff. Do you think there is a point where the light bulb goes off and you feel healed? Do you think that the earlier you start, the better, or dealing with it, or actually, and a lot of people will say, I didn't know that was trauma, or I didn't know that was trauma. They'll tell you about their childhood or something and you look at them and you're like, that's not normal. But to them, so how do you?
Oh, wow. So I've been in therapy, I would say at least 20 years.
But let me cut you off there. Did you always put all of your energy in your counseling therapy to get the results you wanted, or were you just showing up to therapy to say you were going to therapy?
I always put 100% into it. When I started therapy, it was mainly for marriage, to deal with the things that were going on in my marriage. And then off and on, it would be I'm going to therapy because I'm getting a divorce. So that's going to affect my kids. So let me take my kids to therapy. Or I have this issue with one of the kids and I don't know how to deal with this. So let me go to therapy for that. But I never really started the trauma therapy until 6 years ago. And I kind of went through a hot mess of a situation in the military where I felt betrayed, I was let down, I felt abandoned. So all of that came flooding back. And the therapist recommended, hey, you need to deal with this childhood trauma. And I was like, for why? But that's way 50 years, 40 years ago. Why are we talking about that now? And she basically said, because it is affecting your everyday life right now. You can't have the intimate relationships. You can't see yourself and recognize the things that you tell yourself over and over and over again in your head because you keep avoiding it. So I call it my rucksack of shit. It's in the corner. It stays there. We don't open it. We don't touch it. We don't look at it. It's sitting in the corner. But if I go over there and touch it for any reason, then I just feel like I lose Tiffany. I lose this persona, this strong person that has overcome the world. And I don't want that. I don't let people see that because I want to be seen as someone that never went through any of that. And I don't know if I even touch it, how overwhelming that's going to be to hug that little girl and say, I'm sorry that happened to you, but we can let it go. I don't know if I can do that. So that's why I don't talk about it. I don't even label myself survivor or victim. I'm just somebody that grew up in the ghetto, had a shitty life, and figured it out and did something better with my life. And hopefully, the people that I help, the people that I talk to and love can see, wow, she did that without knowing the backstory and feel like I can do it too, no matter what has happened in my background and in my life.
But how do
I
they
can
know that if you
still,
don't share your backstory?
oh,
It's easy to look at somebody and say, okay, Tiffany's amazing. Like, but without knowing the backstory and you dealing with your own backstory, it's almost like you always joke about the imposter syndrome on other things, but like, it's almost like you're taking away your actual strength because if people really knew all the details of your background, it would be even more amazing of like, God, if she can overcome this, this, and this, and you're a Black female, and you know, your mom's situ all that stuff that happened, that gives even more empowerment. And I think sometimes we do have to lose ourselves to
Yeah.
build ourselves because otherwise, like, I'm around you. I know that you feel guilty sometimes that like you'll say like you know, like you're not really putting it all out there for yourself. Because if you did it for yourself, I feel like you could move on from some of those things. Like you might break down and be a complete fucking hot mess, but then you build yourself back up knowing of where you are now. Like you would break down, I think, and fall apart because of what you've been through, but then you see where you are now. It's kind of like the
But that's just they have always felt like I have to be strong, have to.
but you did to survive. I mean, you had to what you went through,
Yeah.
but what does your counselor say about that perspective?
He says, and we talked about this yesterday, and he said, well, Tiffany, if you show up and you're not the happy, bubbly, hey, beautiful, how are you today? And let's get this done. And we're going to work out so great and have so much fun. People will still show up. They may pick up the slack, and you won't feel the pressure to have to be this happy go lucky, warm, happy person all the time. It's okay not to be okay. And for me, I don't know how to do that except in my house.
Well, see, that's what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say to that.
That's
So
fine.
I feel like it's almost like what they call with ADHD, with like masking.
Yep.
Out in public, you do this persona. I'm happy and I'm this and I'm whatever. And then when you come home, you're a complete asshole to everybody in your household because they say it's your safe space.
Yep.
You're taking off the mask. And these people in your house are seeing that side. They see that, but they don't get the other side. And so how do you balance that?
For me, I'm if I'm dealing with my therapy or my trauma. So yesterday I had therapy session. I have homework that I really am dreading doing. And basically I have to part of the cognitive behavior therapy with trauma. I've done it for my sexual abuse. I absolutely hated that because you recall what you remember. And what you remember, you read it out loud, you rewrite it, blah, blah, blah. It's the most terrible thing ever. This time I'm not rewriting the story that I have in my head that I'm going to use as my trauma piece to work on. I have to write about the impact. And so I'm thinking about the situation, the impact on what it had on me. And then I told my therapist, okay, so after I do this, I'm going to go into my room and I'm not going to go out for that day. And he was like, but why? And I was like, because I might break down. I might be in a shitty mood. I might be just overwhelmed with all the emotions that are going to come up. And I don't want people to see that. And he was like, well, how can they support you if you're going to go in the room and close yourself off? And I'm like, they don't. It's for me to work through. He's like, but you working through it with me. I'm not that close to you. Why wouldn't you share that with the people that really are close to you and love you, like, especially my husband? Because he's going to be there.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
Why are you not talking to me? Or he's going to be like, well, she's in one of her moods. She's dealing with some crazy and I can't be let in. And that's a coping skill. I just don't let people in. So when I write this impact statement,
But at what
I'm just going to
point,
be overwhelmed.
I will back up too and say that I'm sure you've gone through multiple counselors. So it's about finding the right one that you feel pushes you and that you could be open and honest with. Because I've had family members and I go to a counseling appointment with them, and that counselor knows nothing of what reality is. They were only telling little pieces. So you have to be open and willing.
Do.
But at what point, and I don't want this to sound shitty because it's going to sound shitty when it comes out, but it's a question, I don't mean it shitty, but at what point do you stop using all of that as an excuse for how you do it to yourself and you treat people and you really push yourself to start honestly coping and moving forward. So like Ed, let's say you just said, he's going to know I'm in one of my moods, or is that really okay? And how long is that okay for? When do you actually like start bringing him in and saying this, I don't know what to tell you, but this is how I'm feeling. Like at what point do we stop saying it's a coping because it's what I've always done, and we stop doing what we've always done? Or how?
For me, it would have to be being brave enough to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. But also in my head, the way that I would fantasize about if I said, hey, this is what I'm doing, it's going to be pretty crappy. I might be emotional, I might be very quiet or sad or whatever. And he responds with, babe, I'm going to be right there to support you and love you and hold your hand. And I got you. That would be the fantasy part in my head that would say, okay, yes, I could share that with him. Of course, that's never going to happen. I haven't given him the opportunity to say, hey, yes, I will hold your hand and be there and support you.
But I feel like if he did that knowing you would be like, that's not what I want.
No, because that's a part of the fantasy of my belief in what it should be like. But trauma.
There's a problem with like me, even Ed. I'd say me and Ed are probably in the same category for this.
Yeah.
We want to fix and help.
Yeah.
And we're not good at just saying, okay, dump it on me and I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Because we want to be like, no, you're great and we'll get through it and blah, blah, blah. And so I think from somebody trying to share, like you, a person with trauma trying to share with somebody in their life, I would say my advice would be, if from the person on the other end is saying, I want to share something with you. I'm not expecting you, nor do I want your motivation. Do I want you to talk? I just want to be able to express to you and you listen and know that you're there. Because I think that makes it easier. Because even when Nick, I'm just like, and what about this? And what about that? And he's probably like, I never should have said anything.
I think that's probably what I say.
And when I'm just thinking about Edward is Mr. Philosophy and Mr. Positive. So I could just imagine what he might say that would trigger you, that like, where you just said, hey, I want to share this with you, but I just want you to be here for me. I don't want that might help.
Might help
people sharing with people their traumas and stuff.
But I also hold that part of me away from people because I do feel like you say, it's pretty bad. It was very shitty. I mean, there's no ice cream, there's no cake, it was really horrible. And I've even said this to my therapist once, and he was like, that's not your responsibility. That's not your problem to worry about. I don't want to dump my shit on you. Open that rucksack of shit. And now not only do I have shit on me, you have shit on me, and you can't
that's
deal with it.
It's not mine to deal with. It's mine to be there for you.
The details, it's very, very hard.
The more that I know, the more that I support you and the more that I understand you and the more I'm like, that's just Tiffany. Like I can get you more. But the more that you keep people, it's almost like hearing you talk about it, it's almost like you're living in this bubble of hell and you want to stay in it. And you don't want to bring anybody in with you, but you don't want anybody to get you out of it either. It's like you're just staying in it. Because if you bring people in, people will eventually bring you out of it. Eventually, with support, you being able to freely like come on and talk about it. The more people talk about things, I think the better it gets them through it. But you stay in this bubble and you don't want anybody in and you don't want to come out. I feel like then you're just literally in one of those little, like, what do you call those little balls at the gerbils?
Hamster.
Yeah.
But I
think you should just go up to your neighbor and tell them no.
I mean, but it just feels, I would never want anybody to experience what I went through. If I knew you had any situation in your life that was similar to what I went through, I would be like fighting for you. I would murder people for you. I would go to no end to protect you from having to deal with that.
If you never share with me, how would I know if I had something like that I could share with you? So now we're both sitting in silence and we could really have somebody we could relate to. So like there's probably people in your circle, they may not have trauma, like Ed may not have trauma, I might have, but there could be somebody else. And by you not talking or you not sharing, I'm not saying you should go out there and tell the whole world, but I feel like the more that you do, just like we talked on one of our episodes, the more you share with people and then they're like, oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
They feel okay. They feel normalized. They feel not wrong for thinking those thoughts or having those experiences. And so I feel like with trauma, it's horrible and you obviously don't want to relive it, but hiding it or keeping it, I feel like keeps you from growing and it could stop other people. Like whoever's watching this right now, there's somebody who's watching this that is relating 100% to you.
Well, I do feel like there have been instances in my life where, a person may have crossed my path. They kind of mention something that they've gone through, and I can share my experience, my trauma with them to say, "Hey, you're not alone." But I just feel like for me, this problem, the situation, yes, I'm super serious about. No, I really don't want to write this impact statement, but I don't want to stay stuck in this place that I am in for the next 50 years because it's not fun. It sucks. It's definitely affects every aspect of my life, whether I interact with you, my husband, my kids, just everything. But I just still feel like it's my thing to deal with, and I don't want to put this burden or this
But this is what we say in our
on
house.
somebody else.
This is what we say in our house. Don't put your shit on me, meaning you're speaking for me. When I'm, like you might be speaking for Ed. I don't want to put this on Ed. Well, you're putting your shit on him without even knowing what he, like, don't assume.
Yeah.
Like I used to say stuff to Nick. He's like, don't put your shit on me. I'm fine with doing that. Just because you think I'm not fine with it doesn't mean you shouldn't include me because you think. So like you're thinking,
Yeah.
And I think too, like I think the more I understand you, the better because, and I'm just speaking for me as a relationship, because you're like, I'm probably gonna cry.
Don't cry. Why are you crying? See, that's because it affects other people. And I
So
want you to recognize, yes,
no, that's it. Okay, so like you're our family.
I am your family. I love you. I love those kids.
I know.
There's nothing I wouldn't
So
do
you
for
drive me
any of them.
fucking crazy. Like when you almost try to remove yourself from it sometimes or act like, no, I don't want to impose or I don't want to. And I'm like, I feel like it's like that's your protection, I
Yep.
guess. But I'm like, dude, they call you TT. They call you when they need things. Like we don't have family here. Like our friends are our family. You're our family. You're the closest of everybody to our children, our household, what goes on in our household. And so like it, I know what you've been through. So I recognize it sometimes, even though it annoys me. But I'm like, imagine how many people are missing that because you're just willingly to pull yourself away and you're missing those opportunities with other people because you're protecting yourself, which I get, but you got to figure out how to work through that because I feel like I can even see it with your Toys for Tots. Like you love those children so much and you do everything for everybody else, but then you don't want to ask for help and you don't want to like let people like, because I think you feel it's a weakness or you feel like, oh, if I let these people in and they let me down, I'm going to be disappointed and you're going to go backwards.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've got to give that rope to like keep moving forward. And
I can't.
but you can. You got to figure out
I gotta
how.
figure out how, but right
Yes.
now, that is the worst coping skill that I've learned throughout all of my trauma is I don't trust. You don't get too close because I know if I let you get too close and you betray that trust, I'm going to be sitting in a corner saying to myself, look what you did. I told you you weren't supposed to do that. Everything has turned bad. Your life is shit. You are shit.
But
Why
that's
did
what
you
you've
allow
got
that
to
to
learn to
happen?
work through because
That's
I mean,
what
like,
therapy's doing.
yeah, you have to because people will always disappoint you. I mean, you lose friends that you think are your friends and then they're not. And
It's easier
but
for the subsurface people. I mean, like you just said, there are some subsurface people that, okay, we're not friends no more. I don't give two shits. Like, bye. I'll speak to you when I see you, but I'm not that hurt by it. But those that are in that inner circle, and there are only very few, that's the reason there are very few because over the years they've shown me, even if we have some disagreement, we've had disagreements, I still can trust that you're not trying to hurt me. You're not going to run off and leave me. I'm not this horrible person that you're going to see like, oh shit, Tiffany is a crappy person. I don't ever want to be friends with her.
right.
You're always come back. Ed comes back. He might be pissed off like, God, I just can't get this girl because she's just so crazy. But he comes back. The kids, they might go off but they still come back. But even I was sharing with you earlier, and I shared this with my therapist. I have always said to my children, because of the relationship I had with my mother, if you ever feel that I'm not a positive influence in your life, I'm affecting your mental health, I'm okay with you saying, Mom, you can't be in my life, which is really shitty, but that's still a part of the coping of, okay, if they run off and leave me, I'm going to be okay because I've given them this ticket, this out. And I said that because with my biological mother, I could not be in a relationship with her. I just absolutely could not. I can make sure she was taken care of.
But you are not your mother.
Sometimes I don't feel like
You are
her.
not your mother.
I learned a lot of shitty stuff from her that
You
I
did,
did to
but
my
have you
own
not?
kids.
But have you not learned to correct that as you
Yeah.
keep growing?
Yes.
So there's the difference. When you recognize something and you learn and you work to change it, you are not that person.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. You're there for your children. You're a positive person. And sometimes you may not get along with them. That's life.
Yeah.
But I don't think at this point in time that you've done anything to harm them. Maybe when they were younger, you made some bad choices. But now we can't hold people to that for the rest of their life when you're trying to be better and do better. And I don't think your kids see you that way. I mean, every time I see you, you're on FaceTime with half of your children all the time, chilling.
Bullshitting.
Yeah. Or one's going to the bathroom, one's putting on makeup, and you're driving. Like, but I feel like you don't give yourself enough credit.
No.
You would rather say, oh, you guys can leave if you want. I'm like my mom, but you're not. And you're afraid to tell yourself I'm not, and I'm better, and I'm doing better, and I'm working on it. And that's what I think a lot of trauma people do. They keep it in and they get depressed. They want to be secluded. They start to have a don't give enough attitude about other things when they do deep down, but it's easier to withdraw yourself and put those walls up than to make yourself vulnerable and, you know, even people with trauma to even talk about it. You know, they'd rather be mad at the world or be angry or be depressed, but not do anything, like not talk about it or not work through it. And I think it's that you telling your kids that as a coping mechanism. So if they bail on you, you're like, okay, well, I told them they could do that.
Yeah. And it won't hurt so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still going to hurt.
It would.
Regardless.
It would. I would be very sad because I have worked really hard to try to repair the damage or the disappointment that they've experienced, which is something I never got from my biological parent. And to let them know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm not going to always give you everything you want because that's not parenting. That's just operating out of guilt, trying to repay for the stuff that I did when I didn't know better. But I love the relationship that me and the girls have.
And I think that says a lot about the kids too, though, is that we have some kids in our life, we have a big family that just hold on to whatever they can to be angry, mad, and they don't want to deal with it, don't want to work through it, don't want to build a relationship. Everything at least your children have not held on to all of that. I'm sure they do a little bit, but they're giving you the opportunity. And I think sometimes not just you as the person, but your children or those people that have been harmed have to also try to like deal with that and give person an opportunity. Because I feel like who you were at 20, I mean, you had your first child when you were what? 13. So who you are at 13 is not who you are at 50.
No.
And your life experience at 13, you didn't know what the hell. I mean, think about that. You'd be 23 with a 10-year-old.
Yep.
Who's doing that? So who you were is not the person you are. And choices you made might not have been good. They might not you did the best you knew with what you had. It's not an excuse. You own up to what you did wrong, but you can't be held to the fire, I think, to that for the rest of your life. Because
I have to write that down and look at it every day because depending on what happens during the day, and I'm sure a lot of people who deal with PTSD, trauma, if you're not able to talk yourself through, hey, yeah, I screwed that up. And I've shared some of the times I've screwed up real estate transactions or whatever with you. And those days, I was back to being that child that was told, you'll never be good enough based on their actions towards me or what they said, or you're always a screw up. Even now, I still hear that voice in my head. when I mess
Oh, I
up.
can tell because you'll say, and I go, okay, and get help or move on. Like, it's not the end of the world.
It is.
But for you, it takes you, I mean, we get upset when we make mistakes, but I think for you, it's different level.
Yeah.
And I do think that you probably, like when they say positive affirmations or write it out, you probably should have something on you all the time that says, I am better than I was, and I'm not who I was when I was this. And because I do think that, even thinking about Nick sometimes, he lives with a lot of regret with how he raised his kids or experiences and the unfortunate thing is you can't go back and change it. You can't. No matter what we do, you can't go back and change it. All you can do is take responsibility for what you have to take responsibility for. What was done to you is not your responsibility. There's a difference. I mean, what you did to your kids, sure, that was your responsibility.
Yeah.
What was done to you is not your responsibility. And then all you could do is build, work, and grow from there. And hopefully the people in your life, your children, whatever, can learn to grow and accept that. And they could be hurt and upset and mad, but I don't think they have to hold you to that the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because 13 to 50 is a long ass time.
Now that you said it out loud like that, it's like, oh God, that's
And I
like a
mean,
whole lifetime.
I think of when I had a child, I think I was 23 for my first child, and I still didn't know what I was doing. Did not know what I was doing. So I couldn't imagine being 13 and having and then having a shitty mother on top of that.
And no
Like,
support.
right.
And
it may not be early child. I mean, people might have had drug abuse. People
Mhm.
might have had, people make a lot of bad choices the younger they are, maybe even the older they are. But I think if you're working on it all the time and you're trying, you have to give yourself grace for those things because we can't go back and change it.
No.
You can't go back. You can't go not have a child. You can't go change everything you did when you were a mom. It is what it is now.
If we could do that, I'd go back and I would start all the way over.
But again, you couldn't change what was done to you. That's the problem. You can only change you. You can't change what was done to you.
No.
Just like your kids can't change the experience they had, but they can change themselves now.
Yeah.
I can't use an excuse, oh, my dad wasn't around when I was younger. I have to deal with that. Or my mom abused, whatever. You have to deal with that. I know it sounds kind of cold, but you have to work through that.
I do.
Because the more you hold on to that, it's affecting everything. Like you say, your relationships.
Every aspect of my life, good and bad. I mean, mostly bad, but this time,
I feel like this counselor is really pushing you.
Yes. And this is the first time I've had a guy. So it's very interesting. I didn't know how I would feel about him him talking about all the stuff that we talk about, but I really like him. And I've always been one that kind of, okay, well, if you say this will help me, sure, I'll try it. And it's just now I'm focused on, okay, what I'm learning now, how to talk to myself, how to go through this process of unpacking the rucksack of shit, which I absolutely hate, letting the shit be on the floor in front of me, letting the emotions come, whatever they're going to be, even though I don't like it, because to me, that's weakness. You just get over it. You move past. I am intentional about, okay, I want all of this to be finally dealt with and the Band-Aid doesn't have to be there anymore. Maybe there's a scar, but there's no Band-Aid. There's no wound that's festering under there. So yeah, the rucksack of shit's coming off. So if y'all see me not happy-go-lucky anymore for a little while, that's maybe why.
I think the biggest thing that I get out of it is you can't do it on your own. I think you need counseling.
Yes, you need counseling.
You need support.
Yes.
People need to be on the ride with you just because we could get lost in ourselves, I think, pretty quickly if we allow it.
Bubba saying, I'm sorry, Tiffany.
We try to contain the animals. It just doesn't work.
Bubba, he's saying, I'm sorry, Tiffany, and that's okay, right? Yes.
That's funny. Well, hopefully somebody doesn't feel alone out there today.
Yeah, don't feel alone. It is good to kind of talk about it. Here I never thought I would because it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's just something I got to figure out. I got to deal with. But to be able to say, hey, I'm about to do this impact statement. I'm not going to share all of it with you, but I just might need a couple hugs every now and then, or just call and check on me and see how it's going. And then being able to share it with Ed, I have to phrase it I don't need your help. See, Bob was trying to say, Tiffany's gonna be okay.
I don't need your help. I need you to listen. Get support. Share with somebody. Share with us. Um, it's okay to not be okay. Just don't do it by yourself. That's my advice. Tiffany is
I'm all into
just
my Bubba because now he's giving TT hugs and love.
this is real life.
There. Hi, guys. So share with us. And until next time,
Bye.
wipe your tears and say bye. Say bye, Bubba.
Bye.
Bye, guys.